All right, so you've got three different things in business. You've got a profit, a loss, and a break-even point. Now, the main point we're going to be looking at here is this break-even, because if anything goes past that point, whether it's in units or dirhams, you will make a profit. If anything falls below, you will make a loss. So, if your total revenue is greater than your total cost, or if, in other words, your net income is greater than zero, you're in the green, or you have a profit. If the total revenue is less than the total cost, or your net income is less than zero, you're in the red, or you have a loss. Now, please understand, your total revenue, how much money your company brings in, is different than your profit. Your profit has to take into account all of the costs associated with running the company. The minimum revenue is zero, meaning you can open a shop, you can have a lot of items for sale, and nobody wants to buy. However, your revenue can never be negative. Now, this is very, very important. You can never lose money by opening a shop. Nobody's going to come in and you're going to give money away. So the revenue that you earn cannot be negative. However, your net income can be negative. So there's a big difference between revenue and net income. Net income can be negative, and that happens when you have a loss. Now, the capacity for the period is the maximum number of units. That's one of the things that we talked about earlier. This is looking at the maximum possible number of units that you're able to move. The slope of the total revenue line gives the selling price per the unit. So let's go ahead and look at some problems that we might use this on. And we're going to do this in three different ways. The first way that we're about to hit is dealing with the graphical method. We're going to look at a graph and talk about at what point do you lose money, at what point do you break even, and at what point do you gain money. Most businesses will need to know the point at which they will begin to make profit. This point is the point called the break-even point. The point begins after they break even. It's known as the break-even point. We just talked about it. We can find the break-even point using one of the following methods, and we're going to start by using the graphical method. So the break-even chart for a company which makes pens is given below. From the break-even chart, answer the following questions. What is the break-even point? Okay, we have to look at where the two graphs intersect, and they intersect right here. Now, this is a big deal because we don't actually know that point. We can see very clearly that it's 3,000, but we don't know the monetary value there. So we're going to actually look at some basic points. We're going to look at X, Y, and we're going to come down here to 0, 0, X, Y. So we're going to start with the total revenue graph. Okay. So the total revenue graph has 7,200 minus 0 divided by 6,000 minus 0. Okay, so let's get out our calculator. 7,200 divided by 6,000. And we get that the total revenues graph equation, the slope, is 12. In other words, the selling price is going to be 12. Okay, so for here, to do the total revenue line, total revenue equals 12 times my quantity. Now, if we know this, we can find out what this point is, and that's kind of an important point to have because that is your break-even point. So in order to do this, we're going to put in 3,000 for my quantity. So 12 times 3,000 is 36,000. So this break-even point right here is 3,000, 36,000. Okay, we've got the total revenue graph. We really need to do the total cost as well. So once again, we're going to do X, Y. I'm going to go ahead and do a different color to make it a little bit different to see. X, Y. And we're going to do 60,000 minus, and this point here, x, y, 60,000 minus 12,000, so 12,000 is my fixed cost, because that is where it intersects the graph, divided by 6,000, now we got to be careful not to mess that up, minus 0. Okay, so we get our calculator over here, and we do 60,000 minus 12,000 divided by 6,000 minus 0. And we get that the variable cost is 8. So right here, the unit variable cost is 8. So when we do the equation for total cost, it would be 8 times my quantity, and then the fixed cost we already identified, plus 12,000. Okay, so I think we've got enough now to answer the questions. What is the break-even point? Okay, the break-even point is 3,000, 36,000. Okay, this point right here. What is the break-even point in units? Okay, so the way that it works is down here, this is units, and up here, this is dirhams. So the break-even point in units is 3,000. What is the break-even point in dirhams? The break-even point in dirhams is 36,000. When will the company make a loss, and when will they make a profit? All right, I obviously need to go back through this and change some of the grammar. When will they make profit? Okay, so if we look here, this part right here is in the red, or it's in a loss. Anything past that point is in the green, or is making profit. So when will the company make a loss, and when will they make a profit? If they have more than 3,000 units, so if they sell more than 3,000 units, or sell more than 36,000 dirhams. Okay, what is the capacity? Okay, so the capacity is the highest point on this graph, which in this case is 6,000. What is the fixed cost for the period? Okay, the fixed cost we already figured out. That was 12,000. So you can see how in one graph there is a lot of information going on with break-even analysis. And this is only one way to do break-even analysis, looking at a graph. We'll also be doing algebraic method and the unit contribution margin method.